Hi, I'm Gary Smith. Welcome to my man cave, which is a room over our garage. This presentation is to discuss the differences between freedom and liberty in early Western civilization. Dr. Kerry Roberts touched on this issue in a video in Module 1. He indicated there is a tension between the terms freedom and liberty. Rather than seeing freedom and liberty as being synonymous, he encouraged us to consider the two terms etymologically. Dr. Roberts said, freedom has a Northern European Germanic origin, which is related to our English word neighbor. Liberty is Mediterranean in origin, coming from the Latin term libertas, and it has to do with rights and corresponding duties. A journal article entitled, Are Freedom and Liberty Twins?, written by Hannah Pitkins, goes along with what Dr. Roberts has described regarding the terms freedom and liberty. Ms. Pitkin concludes that there are indeed differences of meaning in the English language between freedom and liberty. She maintains that freedom and liberty are not interchangeable because the two words have entirely different ancestries. The word freedom is Germanic, transmitted to us by the Germanic Anglo-Saxons. Liberty derives from the Latin by the way of Old French, which was brought into English after the Norman conquest of England in 1066. The Oxford Dictionary indicates the differences between freedom and liberty. Freedom is defined as the power or right to speak or think as one wants. And liberty is the state of being free within society from oppressive restrictions imposed by authority on one's way of life, behavior, or political views. Concepts of freedom and liberty in our modern world did not arise in a vacuum. Classical writers of antiquity, such as Aristotle and Cicero, wrote about freedom and liberty. Maura M. Walsh, author of Aristotle's Conception of Freedom, one of our readings, discussed Aristotle's view of freedom. Jeff Kennedy, author of Cicero, Roman Republicanism, and the Contested Meaning of Libertas, another one of our readings, discussed the conception of libertas, or liberty, in the Roman Republic in which Cicero lived. Classical writers like Aristotle and Cicero and many others were resurrected in the Renaissance. And Greek and Roman writers became part of the European literary tradition and culture. Although early European immigrants to what would eventually become the United States brought their conceptions of freedom and liberty with them, but not everyone was included in those terms. Early on in 1619, African slaves were imported into Virginia. By the time of the American Revolution, slavery had grown and become an institution that by law denied freedom and liberty to the enslaved. The institution continued on in American history until it was crushed in 1865. Thomas Jefferson penned in the Declaration of Independence that all men are created equal. A historical question is, how could Jefferson, an advocate of equal rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, have justified his ownership of slaves? It's well documented that he believes slavery was a terrible evil. In an early draft of the Declaration of Independence, Jefferson had accused King George III and the British nation of imposing slavery on the American colonies. However, this particular accusation penned by Jefferson was removed from the final draft of the Declaration of Independence by the Continental Congress. Much has been written about Jefferson's hatred of slavery, yet he continued to be a slave owner. And I've read a number of explanations about this dichotomy, none of which has entirely satisfied me. Thank you very much.